Hi, hello, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going through the friendlies that we've done in pre-season and just analysing those very slightly before we jump into the first game of the Premier League season against Everton at Goodison Park. Now, what we'll also do is we'll be going through the transfers both in and out that we've accomplished so far, and I'll be going through the stats and things like that for you to see who we've brought in, why we've brought them in, and what impact I think they're going to have on the team. So hopefully, if you've got any ideas to tweak any tactics, or if you've got any suggestions for any signings that I should make with the small amount of window that's left, or any ideas for the January transfer window, it'd be greatly appreciated if you could pop them in the comment section below. Obviously, if you're new to the channel, if you could subscribe. It's a very brand new channel, so I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to build a fan base here as well. So if you can like and subscribe, that would be massively appreciated. And let's jump into it. So as you can see, the first game that we had in the pre-season was against our second 11, which was just a nice, easy 2-1 win. I did have a lot of players missing for this, so I had to play some youth players within the first team setup. So it was only a 2-1 win. I never really paid much attention to the outcome of the result against the second 11. But we did manage to win. Trincao scored in his first game for the club, and Fabio Silva scored in the last minute as well to give us the win. Our next game was away at Cliftonville. Obviously, the level of competition that we're playing against does sort of increase steadily throughout pre-season to a decent level. Probably not at the level that Wolves are realistically, but it's given us a confidence boost to see how the players perform, and they're just getting used to the tactics and the way that I'm setting up and the way I want to play, which, as you can tell from some of the results, it's on the front foot. So we've beaten Cliftonville 8-1. Jimenez has got a hat-trick. Trincao scored again. Hwang's got 2. Willy Bolly and Ruben Neves. The third game, I can't count. My maths has just gone completely out of the window. Pointless me going to school. The third game against Bath, we won 7-1, so against a high-scoring game, and it was away as well. Little concerned that we've not managed to keep a clean sheet throughout the first 3 games that we've been through here so far. Hwang scored a hat-trick, so he's flying pre-season so far. Nelson Semedo, Willy Bolly's got another 2, and Dendoncker scored in the last minute to put that icing on the top of that cake. We then moved to Holland and we played Edo Den Haag. Again, this was away and we've won 4-1. Obviously, the step up in competition is significant between Bath and Edo Den Haag. We again have managed to concede in the second minute as well. Wasn't a great start to the game, but we hit back straight away. Gedson Fernandez, obviously, those of you familiar with Wolves' squad will know he's not a regular with Wolves. He's somebody we've brought in. Raul Jimenez got another 2, and João Moutinho rounded the game off in the last few minutes to make it 4-1. The penultimate game of pre-season was still in Holland against Groningen. We've played this one at home, and we've got the same scoreline, 4-1. We took the lead here. Raul Jimenez, Trincao, and Moutinho before Groningen hit back to make it 3-1, and Adeyemi, again, those of you familiar with not only Wolves but Football Manager will know Adeyemi does not start the game at Wolves. He is a new signing that we've made, which we will talk about in the next part of the video. So we've then won that 4-1 and moved with a 100% record into our final game of pre-season against Zwolle, which was, again, that was away. We've conceded 2 goals in this game, so it's meant in the entirety of pre-season we haven't kept a clean sheet, which is not a massive concern due to the amount of goals we've scored, but if that does dry up and our defence stays as it is, it's something we will need to address. Possibly within the tactics, possibly with personnel. We'll just have to see how we go. So we've won this one 8-2. João Moutinho opened the scoring before Zwolle hit back in the 11th minute. We've then, through Raul Jimenez, scored in the 17th minute. He got a hat-trick in this game. Zwolle hit back again to make it 2-2, and then we've just romped home from there on. Trincao made it No, I've completely misread that. My apologies. But we've won 8-2. It's incidental who went up and who went down. Trincao scored, Willy Bolly scored, Saiss, in one of his few features so far, has got on the score sheet. I was playing him as a deep line playmaker, which is probably not something you'd necessarily associate with Romain Saiss, but his stats do allude to the fact he can play there, and he is a competent player in that position. And it was just as a backup really for Neves, because he was a little bit laggy in that game. And Adeyemi has scored again in that game as well to finish things off. We now will move into the first Premier League game of the season, which is against Everton. So it's against a team that's going to be in and around where we're sort of vying for. We're probably looking at a mid-table finish, which is our basic minimum. Personally speaking, I would love for us to get into Europe. I think with the squad that we had at the start of the game and the players that I've added to the squad, will make this a really, really strong European position contender in the Premier League this season. So what we'll do now is we'll move over to the transfer history, and I'll show you what incomings we've had, what outgoings we've had, and go through some of the players. Right, so as you can see, a lot of the transfers that came into the club were preset, and a lot with the transfers that were already arranged to go out, again, were preset and happened before we've taken over. So the first few of these, from Mosquera all the way through Aït-Nouri, Sarr, Harvey Griffiths, etc., they were all presets coming in. The first signing we've made was Gedson Fernandes from Benfica. Now, from the outset, I am going to preface this by saying I think this could potentially be one of, if not the best signings I have ever made on Football Manager, or at least has the potential to be. It's a loan deal. He's on £6,000 a week, which we're paying for, which is minuscule if you think about Premier League football as £6,000 for a 22-year-old central midfielder who's played European football with Benfica. I think is an absolute steal. We also have an option to buy him at the end of the loan for £5.25 million. I can't believe this deal has gone through. If we take a look at his attributes and his stats, he is an absolute dream, because he can play in central midfield, he can play defensive midfield, and he has the perfect stats, which is why I'm training him there to be a fullback. If you look at his ability, he's got tackling, passing, first touch, dribbling, all 13. His work rate is 15, stamina 18, so he's going to have absolutely no problems with his natural fitness at 18 as well, getting up and down that line if we need him to play there. Predominantly, I wanted to be playing in the central midfield role alongside João Moutinho, with Ruben Neves just behind in the pivot. So he'll be playing as a box-to-box midfielder predominantly. Obviously, if there's injury issues at right back, then we can move him back into the right back position, which is why I'm training him there in pre-season to get him ready there for the season just in case. Again, I can't believe this transfer has gone through. The amount of money that we potentially are going to save or make, even if he does not perform to his ability in terms of his attributes and he doesn't translate that through into the game, we will make money off this transfer, because for 5.25 million, as soon as we get him in, his value is going to flip and it's going to at least double. But from pre-season, he's fitted in perfectly with João Moutinho and Ruben Neves. It's like they've never ever been on a different team. They've always played together. Obviously, there's the Portuguese connection, which is a big help, and it helps with our targets for the start of the season to sign Portuguese players. Again, I'm in awe at how easy this transfer was to get through. It's a loan to begin with for one season. He was interested in coming from the get-go as a permanent signing as well. And if you look at the amount of pros that are in here, it's just phenomenal. He's already a decent player at the Premier League. His potential is there to grow as well. He enjoys big matches and he's consistent. Those are some of the two biggest pros that you could ever have with someone in a Football Manager save. Somebody that's consistent and somebody that loves the big games. I mean, the Premier League, full of big games, and especially if we're trying to aim to get into Europe, if his stats go up with his ability, we could have an absolutely phenomenal footballer on our hands for the next few years here. The next signing that we're going to have a look at is Karim Adeyemi. Obviously, from the thumbnail, you'll have gathered we've signed him. Again, I can't believe that the game is preset to allow him to leave for this amount of money. I've signed him in the beta before as well, so I know that he's got ability. And I know loads of you out there who play the game will have signed him as well. So the fee won't be much of a surprise. It's roughly around about what you can get him for. But the fact that I brought him in was initially dependent upon us selling Adama Traore. There was interest in him from the get-go, but nobody wanted to put in a bid. I've lowered his value, or his asking price, I should say, down to 20 million, and the only hits we were getting was for 11.5 from Spurs, and the board were having none of it. They effectively told me they want 23.5 million, and anything else will just be disregarded completely, and nobody wants him. So we're now going to have Traore on the bench / as a reserve, as backup for Adeyemi, who's going to be predominantly playing on this right hand side. But if we need him to step in for Raul Jimenez, he can do so effectively. Obviously, we've been through the pre-season. You've seen he's scored twice. The last game he did play up front, and he did go one-on-one with the keeper, and he chipped the keeper. Phenomenal finish. So I've got absolutely no doubt he would be fantastic there. I am in the middle of training him at the moment just to try and increase his strength. I did have it on passing to try and increase that, obviously, because I'm playing in a wide position. He is going to need to link up with central midfield players. But as I had him on the passing training, he came to me and said that he felt he needed strength training more, and he was getting a bit unhappy. So I've just put him on strength training for the next few weeks, just to put him at ease. And then if his strength doesn't increase or doesn't improve, then I'll just put him back onto the passing and try and get that passing and possibly his composure up a little bit. But he's going to be a fantastic player again. And the last signing that we've made for the first team is Layvin Kurzawa. I'm not entirely sure how a 28-year-old playing for Paris Saint-Germain, who is capped at international level for France, is allowed to leave for £2.4 million. I'll be honest, I don't know why they accepted this. I don't know why they transfer listed him for that amount of money, but we've got him. And the rationale for this one is that Ait Nouri, who would have been the starting left full-back, wing-back, isn't great defensively, but he is good offensively. So we have Marçal, who can play there as well, but with him reaching 32, 33 for this season, I didn't feel as though his stats were going to improve, and they're likely, especially his physicals, are likely going to go down. So we would only be left with Ait Nouri for the first part of the season, with Johnny being out injured. And I felt as though we needed some quality in at left back, defensively at least. Whilst his tackling is only a 12, it's significantly better than what Ait Nouri had. And I have played Layvin Kurzawa both in previous Football Managers and in the beta, and he's been fantastic for whoever I've signed him for, so I've got trust in him to do the business. So we've got him in at left back, and he will be starting the season at left back. The only other player that we've brought in is Luan Miguel. He doesn't have a work permit. I couldn't secure that, so I have sent him straight out on loan to Famalicão, who are one of our affiliate clubs in Portugal. He looks like a prospect for the future. We picked him up for free. It was a no-brainer. Even if he doesn't fulfil his potential, we'll get some money back for him. He's on £550 a week for the next 2 years, so it's not an expensive deal at all. It's basically as risk-free as you can get. Obviously, if he does meet his potential, there's a player there that we could potentially use. With his ability at the moment, dribbling, first touch, acceleration and pace at 14s, he's capable at doing the basics. So he should hopefully be able to improve those other stats and get up to a decent level. But like I say, even if he doesn't reach a level that would get him into the first team, he's definitely going to make us a profit there. And the transfers out, the majority of these were presets, so they were done before the game started. So the only ones that really have gone out have been loans. I've not sold anyone from the starting 11 or from the reserves or the youth setup. Mosquera, who obviously was a preset signing in, he was never going to get into the squad, so I've sent him out on loan to young boys. Fabio Silva was only sent out on loan because Adeyemi was brought in. Fabio Silva did start the season as my sub for Raul Jimenez, and he would have stayed that way throughout the season had I not gone in for Adeyemi. With that being said, Adeyemi coming in, Raul Jimenez being in absolute goal-scoring form throughout pre-season, just convinced me that Fabio Silva is really, really good, but he's not going to get the game time he needs to progress. So he's been sent out on loan to RZ in Holland, where he'll get fantastic gameplay time there, and he should hopefully develop for next season, where potentially, depending on how he does in RZ, how much he grows, we can either decide to sell him if we feel as though Adeyemi is the one to take over from Jimenez, should Jimenez have attributes drop off, with him being towards the peak of his career, should we say. Or we could bring Fabio Silva in to be the second choice behind Jimenez and have Adeyemi solely as the right-sided player if we don't decide to exercise the option to sign Trincao on a permanent deal for, I think, 20 million, I think it is, at the end of the season. So we've got options there. And like I say, we sent Luan out to Famalicão. So that's all of the transfers done and the reasons behind why I've done what I've done. So what we'll do now is we'll jump into the first game of the season, which is Everton away. Right, so as you can see, the tactic expected for Everton to play against us is pretty basic 4-2-3-1, with Damari Gray as a support striker just behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and Richarlison and Iwobi on the wings. Looks as though it's pretty much their full strength side, so what we'll probably do is go and match that with our expected 11 as our strongest 11 available, which it's not going to be too different from pre-season, if I'm honest. The players that have been playing seem to have adapted to the tactic quite well. So what we'll do is we'll get into the game. I'll run through the first half and come back with a halftime report. Just because of the system that I'm using at the moment, my setup at home, the recording won't allow us to record audio, video, and play the match engine at the same time. So for the time being, until I can get a better setup in the house, we'll just have to make do with my explanation of the game and a sort of screenshot of the half-time analysis, and then I'll do a full-time roundup as well, until we can get a better setup going. But as you can see here, the starting 11 will be Sarr in goal, Semedo on the right, Cody, Bolly, centre-halves, Kazawa on the left, Neves as the pivot, Matinho and Fernandes ahead of him as box-to-box and ball-winning midfielder, and then Trincao and Hwang flanking Jimenez up front. Our bench will consist of John Ruddy, Kiani Hoover, Marcel, Roman Saiz, Dendoncker, Adeyemi, Pedence. So it's a pretty strong bench. Adama and Max Kilman are probably going to miss out this time round, but they're there for squad rotation and things like that. So what we'll do is we'll get into the game and I'll come back to you with a halftime report. Right, so it is half-time. It's 0-0. It's been a pretty even game. There's not really been much to shout about in the first half, really. As you can tell from the shots, it's not too dissimilar. our XG is way above what Everton's is, so we should really be taking advantage of that. We've had really similar shots off target, same amount of clear-cut chances, possessions bang on 50-50. We've had more corners, tackles won. We've made more tackles and won them. Discipline's been fine. There's been no bookings. Only issues so far at half time is that Kazawa appears to have picked up a slight knock, as does Jimenez. They were both on red, like really deep red hearts, with about 5 minutes of the half left, but they have started to regain some fitness throughout the half, so I'm hoping that they're only little knocks and they should be able to carry on in the second half. Obviously, if it does progress or stays as it is, then I'm probably going to be taking Kasawa off for Aït-Nouri and Jimenez coming off for Adeyemi. So we'll start the second half and hopefully we can get a winner. Right, okay, so the game's finished and it has ended 0-0. It was always going to happen, wasn't it? First game we have on the channel, 0-0 draw. Played well throughout the game. We were on top throughout the whole of the second half. You can tell from the shots that we've got 24 shots, 7 on target, XG of 2. We did have a goal disallowed in the 89th minute as well. Pedence strayed fractionally offside before cutting it back for Adeyemi, who slotted it home. Unfortunately, he didn't get a goal on his debut. I did have to bring off Kazawa and Jimenez. Kazawa actually came off injured. That was forced upon me, and I just took Jimenez off as a precaution. Adeyemi played well when he came on. My defence played really well, but not through really defending too much. It seems to be the link-up play with the midfield that seems to have been the focal point of the game, really, for me, working out from the back. But for a first game, still getting used to the tactics. 0-0 draw away at Everton isn't the worst result in the world. So we move on, we carry on, we'll move to the next game. I think what we'll do is I'll play the next 4, maybe 5 games offline, and then what we'll do is we'll come back for the Leicester game, and hopefully we'll have a bit more of an entertaining game for you to pick apart then. So again, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Please help the channel grow. I really enjoyed doing these videos, and it's a pleasure to bring this sort of content to you. So if you do like it, please do put some comments down. If you've got any tips or suggestions, please also put those in the comments as well. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ra!